Thanks for stopping into We Called It. Have a great show for you today. We'll be breaking down the Kansas City versus Dallas matchup and which side we're taking there. Connor and I will get into a little bit of a debate for the New Orleans versus Eagles matchup. And then we're going to hear from Connor on why he likes Green Bay -1 so much. But as always, I'm Philip Call. I'm a contributor at the Action Network, and joined by Connor Lucas, who is a former college receiver. How are you doing, Connor?
Hey, Phil. I'm doing great.
Connor is being modest right now. He's holding back his excitement from hitting on his Atlanta versus New England under last night. Sorry, we're coming a day late. You guys couldn't get that pick in, but that was a fantastic moment to have. All Connor did is blow up my phone with how right he was.
Yes, actually, I said before the game, even if Cordero Patterson was playing, I was probably still going to take the under. But the moment that Cordero Patterson was out, I immediately said, yep, under, period, book it. Easiest money we made all year.
Absolutely. My brother called me about Cordero Patterson and debating a bunch of fantasy people to play. I can't remember who they were, but I'm just like, okay, if Cordero Patterson is out, as we were talking, I'm like, the under just sounds like such sweet money. Falcons are so bad. Speaking of that, later you can hear from Connor on why the Falcons might be looking like the new Jets to us.
Yeah.
Before we go any further, please like, subscribe, comment, follow everything we do. It's always great to hear from everyone. So last week was a rough week for us, though. I think we both went 3-4, but I think watching those games, it felt way worse than 3-4. I know for me, I think even the games I hit felt like they weren't going to for 3 quarters. It just felt painful. I made some necessary bets on the side that I ended up losing to because I wanted to make my money back, and it turns out if I didn't make those bets, I would have been in a great position. So it snowballed against me. Reckless behavior. How
Yeah,
did you feel?
well, you've got okay, the whole screwball of Friday or Thursday of OBJ being announced to the Rams, and then he just completely torpedoes the Rams. And I mean, completely torpedoed them.
So
Like their whole first half.
are you blaming that on
Yes.
OBJ, or is that because Robert Woods tore his ACL on Friday?
Oh, yeah. Let's blame Robert Woods. Let's blame the guy who tore his ACL.
I'm
No,
not pointing fingers. I'm saying they lost their number 2 option and had nothing because of it.
listen. You still have Cooper Cup, Darrell Henderson, and then you decide, yeah, this guy who's been playing with us this whole year, Van Jefferson, like he's pretty good. Hey, you know what? Just automatically move down. First 2 series, it's going to be all about OBJ. Oh, and by the way, we're going to throw 2 picks and then get down 14-0. Now you can't use Henderson, who is a pretty good weapon this year. Now you have to go to Cooper Cup, which of course, he did Cooper Cup things. You have OBJ, who probably knows 10% of the offense, and you're like, hey, put all my chips in with this guy. We just paid him a bunch of money, made this big splash. Let's keep trying to throw it to him, and then also only have him play like 15 plays of the game. He's in those 15 plays. He got like 6 targets. I wonder if the other team knows that you're going to try and target him if he's in the game. The answer is yes, Phil. The answer is yes. And of
But
course, Kyle Shanahan looked like a good Kyle Shanahan, not a bad Kyle Shanahan. So
I love that people. It's correct to give Kyle Shanahan a lot of credit for what that offense does, but I just love that when he looks his best, it's not because they're throwing the ball well, it's because they run the ball so much better than everyone else. Like, they humiliated the Rams on the ground with misdirection and just the way they handed the ball off, like, doing the pitch to the backfield and then running it up the middle.
yeah, Matt, you know who started that? LSU started that. Wes Miles used to do that. He started that, and he won college football championships in the late 2000s. He
I was,
crushed Ohio State in the late 2000s doing that. Les Miles started that, but
Les Miles is like that coach from The Waterboy. He had his little green playbook, blew everyone's minds for a few years, and then he just was like, okay, I've used all my tricks. I got nothing else.
then he has nothing else, and then a new guy, Kyle Shanahan, comes and bullies him out of his playbook. Yes.
Completely. All right. So let's get started with our games then. First one we're going to talk about is the America's Game of the Week, Kansas City versus Dallas. So this wasn't going to be our number one because I don't think it's either our favorite picks or we're not debating on it. But I did write an article on it, so that moved it way up the priority list because I'm special. So I'm
Well,
going.
good.
I'm going with KC -2.5 in this one. So I'm buying the Chiefs. I think they had a 3-game slump. I know I probably shouldn't. I think I'm really selling low on the Dallas defense is actually what this comes down to. And I think they get way too much credit for Trayvon Diggs' interceptions being opportunistic and not actually good. And this part of the reason for that is because they are missing their defensive front. Randy Gregory's out. DeMarcus Lawrence is out, and I think they're missing someone else in the interior. But that forces Micah Parsons to play as a pass rusher. Micah Parsons is a really good pass rusher, but you drafted him because you needed a linebacker, and that's just going to let Travis Kelce run free, or you're not going to get pressure one way or the other. And I really think that Trayvon Diggs, his opportunistic play, is just going to get eaten up by Tyreek Hill because Mahomes goes off script. Tyreek Hill just runs around in circles and circles and circles. So Trayvon Diggs won't be able to jump routes. And if he's trying to jump or time something, one misstep and Tyreek Hill's off to the race. I like KC a lot. Now, Dallas's offense is going to light up the scoreboard against the Chiefs' defense, but I think Steve Spagnuolo is smart enough to somehow limit them. And big picture, I think Mike McCarthy blows the game in the fourth quarter more than.
So I didn't pick either of these games, either of these sides, total or KC or Dallas, only because I said for like 3 weeks, I'm not touching Kansas City because I don't know when they're going to blow up, but they're going to blow up. They're going to figure it out. And they did last week, and I bet the over with them. And they did blow up. And all of a sudden, the last 2 games, their defense has come out. And so here's why I couldn't bet either of these, because one game isn't great versus the Raiders. 2, I just have a tough time thinking that Mahomes is going to not turn back into a show off, a kind of a pretty boy. I'm a $500 million man. I need to show everyone that I am worth $500 million. Okay, the last couple of weeks were either losses or just ugly wins, and one of them was against the Giants, and that was it. So that was a rude awakening. He's back on the horse now, and so I wonder. This is all speculation. I wonder if this is going to go back to his head, and he's going to all of a sudden be like, "Yeah, hey, see, we're back on the horse." And then he's going to be doing no-look passes and left-handed passes and all this other stuff, and then he's going to get punched in the mouth. Now, to your point, is he going to get less punched in the mouth because they have no defensive front? Potentially. But I don't know if Dallas's defense is not good. And here's 2 other things, too. Kansas City's defense the last couple of weeks has actually been pretty solid. Now, they haven't had, they had the Vegas Raiders. Okay, but they shut them down pretty heavily. Now, they shut them down by doing what everyone else does with a tight end-oriented offense. They doubled them. Last night you saw New England just completely shut down Atlanta because Atlanta has 0 run because Cordell Patterson is out. And then you have Bill Belichick on the other side who's doing something else different, which is, if you notice, if Kyle Pitts was close to the line, he beat the crap out of him with a defensive end and then had a linebacker over top of him and then had a safety behind it.
I sent you a text on that one play. I'm just like, did you see that? They double covered him at the line, double press. He beat it, but then there was still the safety over the top for Matt Ryan's pick.
Is that because, you got Matt Ryan, Ollison, Mike Davis, and Olamide Zaccheaus? If I'm Bill Belichick, I'm going all in on just putting my entire team on Kyle Pitts and sending them. And then they gave up 10 sacks. But anyways, Dallas, Kansas City, I don't like either of these enough to pick it. I understand your pick, but I'm curious if Spagnuolo is starting to get his guys back. Tyrann Mathieu, Chandler Jones, Chris Jones, kind of these guys that are good enough, got big contracts. But to your point, side note, Tyreek Hill is the only person that I have ever seen in my entire life who can actually just flat out run around you if you press him. Trayvon Diggs likes to be physical, okay? if you give him space, let's say you have Tyreek Hill, and then you motion him across, you can't get your hands on him because he's moving. And if you do decide to move and you lunge, he's going to make a move the other way, and it's a very simple. That's what Andy Reid does is same way that Cooper Kupp uses. If I move you around, you can't get pressed. You can get pressed, but you can't get jammed.
Mm-hmm.
And nobody can catch up Tyreek if you just run a rule route. Bye. So yeah, I don't know if I like either of these enough to pick it, but I understand your pick. I just got to see Kansas City do it again this week.
All right, so here's another thing. I want to get your take as a former player. The Raiders got beat because they broke away from the formula that beat the Chiefs in multiple weeks. They didn't run too high. They stuck to the Pete Carroll tree, cover 3, I'm Gus Bradley. Well, so Dan Quinn plays that cover 3 style similar to what the Raiders do. And to stop the Chiefs, what everyone's been doing is, the two safeties 30 yards back, and then force them to take the underneath stuff. Well, the Raiders didn't do that, and so the Chiefs, they crushed them for it. Do you think it's bad for Dallas to play left-handed and do what works, or what's proven to work, or should they stick to what they do, like their philosophy, even though it's not optimal?
Normally, I would say, stick to what you do and stay there. I say this is one of the only teams that you may or may not have to play left-handed and do something that goes against the grain of what you do as a defense. Now, we're not talking high school or college where you got guys that are learning an offense or learning a defense and they're like, oh, well, yeah, we don't really play this. We're talking about National Football League players. They should understand what a cover 3 is and the principles of a cover 3 versus a cover 2. That being said, if you would run a cover 2 and you had, a Micah Parsons that didn't have to be rushing, you'd throw him in the middle and have him be a Tampa 2. You'd run like a shell 2, and then you'd have him drop deep in the middle, which Tampa made famous in the early 2000s. He would drop back because he can run with anybody.
Yeah.
The only person he probably can't run with is Tyreek Hill. Here, I would say, I don't think you can gamble because you don't have your front 4. If you had your front 4, I say, by all means, you got some studs down there, plus Micah Parsons blitzing. Kansas City's line is suspect. Yeah, I say go ahead and play your normal cover 3 style, but you blitz him. And I think that's one thing that Mahomes I've seen do multiple times, which is he doesn't diagnose like Rodgers or Brady. He doesn't diagnose blitzes very well. He just assumes, okay, I can get out of it. I can spin out, I can run around, I can throw it up, my guy's better than yours. And I think people are catching up, and you saw that earlier this year. If you blitz and you don't get to him, and you don't go with him off script, then he crushes you. If you blitz him and you get to him, he does a lot of stupid things. I'm just going to throw it up to Kelsey. I'm just going to throw it up to Hill. I'm just going to do whatever.
He goes Carson Wentz. Let's just put it at that.
Yeah. And that's probably a pretty good analogy. Because he doesn't like Tom Brady will change the plays to match whatever blitz he sees.
Yep.
I don't think Mahomes does that. I think he just stays with it and then just assumes he's going to be able to do this, or the play is good enough to where he's going to throw it up and it's going to work. And that works about 50% of the time.
All right, so before we go on, I'm just going to throw this out there real quick. Josh Allen does the same thing. Lamar Jackson, in my opinion, does too. They're super athletic. Yeah. They're 3 years in. Give them a break. They're going to get smarter eventually. Come on. All right.
You paid him $500,000. You would hope he can read something, literally anything on a blitz.
Get him a Dr. Seuss book if you want him to read. All right, so now we have New Orleans versus Philadelphia. Connor and I taking opposite sides on this one. I'll let Connor lead off since I started off for the Chiefs versus Cowboys game.
Yeah, okay, well, Kamara's out. There you go. Done. End of story. Phil, off to you.
Oh my God, this is hilarious because my take is Eagles run the ball. Saints have the number 1 run defense in the NFL. Done. End of story. Off to you, Connor.
So that's where I don't know if They have the run. They have a great run defense, but is it run defenses to where it's read option defenses? I don't think they played read option where Jalen Hurts is going to pull it. Like, I mean, you can look at it. Who have they run against? I can pull up their schedule right now, but for Philly, like, who have they had that? Did they have a Lamar Jackson and they shut him down? I don't think they've even played him. I don't
No,
think I've seen that yet.
I don't think the NFC has a lot of mobile quarterbacks that would play that
Right.
style.
So you got Fletcher Cox in the middle, who is just a dog. Sure, okay. Don't be stupid. Don't run it up the gut.
Hey, they
Very
played
easy.
Geno Smith.
And made him look like an idiot. So my point is, I also think they get Miles Sanders back this week. They've got a stable of running backs. That's fine. But Devontae Smith had a little bit of a coming out party last week against a pretty good defense in Denver. So my thought here is, okay, Jalen Smith maybe realizes, hey, I've got a couple of guys that I can hand the ball off to, or can give the threat of handing the ball off to, and I can pull it a little bit better. That being said, I on top of that, off the Philly train to New Orleans is Trevor Siemian. It doesn't really scare me all that much. Marquez Callaway, no, not very scary.
Traquan
Taysom
Smith
Hill.
had 3 touchdowns last week. 2 of them were out of the back of the end zone, but he caught the ball.
That's great. And so those don't count. And so, I mean, Philly's defense is underrated. Their pass defense is very underrated. I think they actually are one of the top 5 or 6 defenses in pass defense, I think. So I'm in on this one. And 2 other guys are out for Philly or for New Orleans too. I think Ryan Ramczyk, which
I would
is
say
their
I think their
guard or
tackles are
tackle.
out. Yeah, they're missing some blockers, so that sucks.
So I don't know. Mark Ingram is formidable. He's still got some left in the tank. But I don't know. I'm pretty confident in this one. Now that Kamara's out, but here's the curveball too. Sirianni. Who knows? I have zero faith in this man. So he could completely screw the pooch and just do whatever he wants, and then decide, hey, I forget how to coach. Oh, I got this guy named Miles Sanders. He's probably not very good. I'll put him on the bench. He could totally screw this, and it would make me mad. I actually was sitting here thinking, well, maybe Sirianni. Maybe I shouldn't bet Sirianni here, but I'm gonna stick with it.
So I took the exact opposite approach, where I was like, these teams are pretty even. Give me the coaches. Sirianni versus Sean Payton. That's a layup. Sean Payton all day. I know he coaches to his opponent, which kind of sucks here. But I think he can do it. I just believe in him. He's been good with Trevor Siemian. The 2.25 weeks he's had him? He's made him. They've come back. They've thrown the ball well in comeback need scenarios. I think he should start trusting him to throw the ball a little bit more earlier, just to have more balanced attack, and so they don't get so far behind. But to your point, I do like the Eagles' offense with Jalen Hurts. I don't think it's sustainable. It just reminds me too much of Robert Griffin and the Washington football team. Almost got in trouble for saying the wrong name there. But where it's like we have 3 players on offense. We have our quarterback, our running back, and 1 receiver. And one of the 3 will be open. And they started, I don't know if you've noticed, but they started using Devonta Smith on just huge crossers. Deep 10-yard posts, literal, just crossing the whole field. And it's like, okay, the second your linebackers step up, we're going to throw it to a talented, fast receiver who's going to burn you. But I think Marshawn...
Guess who started that? Kansas City. Kansas City does that constantly. Yes, Kansas City does
based
crossers
on the run game,
with
though?
Tyreek Hill.
Okay, the crosser, yeah, but I just
no
meant...
threat. Oh, no threat. No, yeah, everyone.
So that's what I mean. This was
it's flash fake.
This was the Kyle Shanahan offense when he had Pierre Garçon, and he's like, you know what? I'm gonna run Alfred Morris 20 times. I'm gonna run Robert Griffin 20 times, and then Pierre Garçon's gonna need 120 targets. Got no one else, but I only need 3 players.
Yeah.
So I do like that offense, but like I said, Sean Payton, he was successful with aging Drew Brees, who I thought wasn't good. Taysom Hill was 2 or 3-0 underneath him last year. Jameis Winston stopped turning the ball over, and now Trevor Siemian has looked solid, so I'm trusting him for whatever it's worth. I get points. I think that's part of the reason. If they were giving points, I wouldn't take it. All right, but let's move on now to your next pick. We have Green Bay versus Minnesota. It looks like you like Green Bay -1. Why is that?
Their defense. You're gonna be crazy. You're gonna think I'm crazy here.
No, I love their
Green
defense.
Bay's defense is solid, and I'm talking fantastic against the run. Which, guess what? You know who wants to run? Oh, Minnesota, Dalvin Cook, Madison. Yeah, well, so if this is don't you know where I'm going with this
Go
too?
ahead.
You know where I'm going with this. Dalvin Cook gets stuffed for a little while. Who has to win the game? Kirk Cousins. Okay, I'll fill in the blank. Kirk Cousins. Please tell me how much you trust Kirk Cousins to win any game. Anything.
He
Now,
burned you
here's
last
the other
week.
side.
We
I don't
were
care.
sitting there both crying because Kirk Cousins
Listen,
hurt us.
that's great. That's awesome. Chargers defense has been up and down this year. Green Bay is on a hot streak. Okay, I think that Kirk Cousins blows this game because it's a big game because it's a rivalry game. I mean, this is a classic Green Bay, Minnesota, like all in. All the marbles are in because it's they get to see each other twice a year. I think Rodgers is going to be ready to go. I think DeVonta Smith is back. You don't lose much by putting in A.J. Dillon versus Aaron Jones. Jones is obviously out with his MCL sprain. I think, I truly think that they may, side note, Green Bay does something incredibly insane, which is they run like 50-something% of their offense between A.J. Dillon, Aaron Jones, and DeVonta Smith. And before that, it was Robert Tonyan, and then Robert Tonyan's out. So it's like 50+% or something crazy like that their offense runs through three guys. Because Aaron Rodgers doesn't trust anybody else. And so, but he makes it work. He makes it work. And so this is I trust Aaron Rodgers and the defense, and I have about this much faith in Kirk Cousins because I wish I could find this stat, which is like games where Kirk Cousins has a really sweet game followed up by a really crappy game because I'm pretty sure that would be like a fantastic stat, and it would be a perfect stat for this. I think he is going to bomb. And we'll see. But I think I really think that if they stop Dalvin Cook, they're going to have problems.
Yeah. So I just don't understand why the Vikings are like, every time we throw the ball to Justin Jefferson, something good happens. Let's only throw to him 3 or 4 times a game when we really need it. Like, dude,
yeah.
All I would do is first drive, feed Justin Jefferson, and because the Packers have a good defense, but they don't have a DB that can keep up with them. So I would just be like, all right, let's take advantage of that, get the defense back, and that backing off the line of scrimmage, and then we'll run Dalvin Cook. But no, it's like you said, they're gonna run Dalvin Cook 26 times, gonna get 100 yards because he'll bust out 150-yard run, and the rest will just be 25 carries for 50 yards. It just hurts me that
really bad stat.
Yeah, Mike Zimmer is such a good defensive coach, but it's like, come on, evolve your philosophy and understand that today's NFL, you gotta score more than just what you're trying and what you are currently doing.
Yeah, so I'm still sticking with Green Bay. You didn't convince me that Minnesota's better, so Green Bay -1.
That's all fair. I'm not trying to convince anyone. I'm just telling you my frustrations and takes on the game. So, all right, my next pick is it's probably my second favorite pick of the week. It's Baltimore -6 versus Chicago. So this line has moved up and down. It started at -6.5, went down to -5, back up to -6 now. And the idea is simple. 1, Justin Fields struggles against the blitz. Now, the Steelers got burned against it because they can't cover at all. They have no good DBs. Well, the Ravens at least have good DBs, and they also have one of the smartest defensive coordinators when it comes to blitzing and disguising blitzes and fooling quarterbacks. Well, that's what Justin Fields does the worst of probably any quarterback in the NFL. He can't read what's going on yet. We were talking about this with the other quarterbacks. He's a rookie. Give him a break. He'll learn how to read one day. But for now, he struggles with it. For now, Baltimore's defense will do what Miami just did to the Ravens, and they'll create confusion and be able to play one-on-one from those DBs. 2, the Ravens, the Bears defense won't be able to do what the the Dolphins defense just did to the Ravens. Because they can blitz, they got pressure, but they don't have the back end to mimic that game plan.
And they don't have Khalil Mack now either.
Oh, they don't? Okay, well, I still think they have, Robert Quinn, Akeem Hicks. They got some talent up front, and Roquan Smith, that if you bring pressure, you can fool Lamar Jackson because he's just not good at picking it up and reading and understanding. But they don't have the DBs on the back end that when you blitz to match up with the receivers on Baltimore. Rashad Bateman has looked solid in his most recent games. He was out for the beginning of the year, but he's put up like 50-plus yards in each. Then you have Hollywood Brown, who, for whatever reason, was just not on the same page as Lamar Jackson last week. I think they get the connection better. Sammy Watkins could have had a touchdown in the first quarter of the Dolphins game when they started doing the blitzing stuff, and instead he slows up in the end zone and just watches the ball fall and hit the ground. I think that they had 10 days to prepare. They're going to be more prepared for a zero blitz kind of defense. And I think, like I said, their defense will be able to create problems for Justin Fields. Even though the Steelers have a better pass rush in general, they can't play the same way the Ravens do. So the Ravens will do what Justin Fields can't handle.
2 things. Marquise Brown may be out. He's questionable. So he loses.
I'm good with Bateman and Watkins.
I probably would be good with both of those guys too. Second thing is, if this was Mac Jones, I would be all over this. If this was maybe even Trevor Lawrence, I'd be all over this. The only reason that I'm not is because we've talked about it plenty of times, is because of the mobility factor. I have a tough time betting against. I had a tough time swallowing the loss for Baltimore last week because, like, they can put up 50 points and then they can put up 6, and I can't. I have a tough time betting that. I have a tough time figuring out when they're going to lay an egg, and I don't know if they're going to lay an egg. I just don't know. Now, to your point, they have 10 days to prepare. They should be fine. I would lean towards Baltimore in this, but if Justin Fields gets out of the pocket and decides he wants to throw a bomb, which he probably will, it's either going to get picked or it's going to be 6, and then all of a sudden you have a 14-point swing. So if it's a pick 6, it's a 14-point swing. Phil, you win. You're in the money. If it doesn't, now the game is close for the whole time because the Ravens decide that, they're methodical. They can go down very quickly, but they can also go super slow and take up 6 minutes of a quarter. So it's just a boomer. It's like a boomer bust flex option in fantasy, right? This is the Robbie Anderson of this week.
I got Robbie Anderson or some backup running back who just got hurt. He's not. I got Alex Collins. Chris Carson's out.
Done.
Alex Collins ain't good. He's going to get 60 yards and nothing else, but I want my 80-yard touchdown.
Yeah. And then all of a sudden Alex Collins goes off for 150, and then he goes back down to 20 yards. That's what this game is. There's my analogy right there. It's Robbie Anderson.
Yeah, I agree, but I don't know. I also think my problem with Baltimore, like you said, is they start off slow, and I think it's intentional because they want to see if they can get the run game going. And it's not the Lamar run game. It's the let's feed Devonta Freeman, who was good 10 years ago. They just cut Le'Veon Bell because he sucks. I think Latavius Murray might be back since they cut Le'Veon, but the whole point is the second quarter, you should be trying to get a lead, in my opinion. Minnesota doesn't do it. Baltimore doesn't do it. But you should be trying to just, outscore as many points as you can. And I think teams try to establish the run right away. I feel like get points on the board, pull out that deep shot, be aggressive early, and then turn to your run game instead of starting with the run and playing like a neutral game. When your offense is that good and you have that much talent and that much speed and explosive factor. Push it early and try to blow the game out right away instead of waiting till you need it in the fourth quarter against the Vikings and putting up 3 touchdowns or whatever it was to come back and win. So, but like I said, this is mostly on I think the Ravens do to Justin Fields what the Dolphins did to Lamar Jackson, and it just creates too many problems. That's the whole reason I took this bet. Plus, Baltimore, I think they've had too many bad games in a row, and they're due for a good one. So let's get some stupid logic in there. All right, let's go on to the next one. Arizona versus Seattle. So it looks like you like Arizona -1.5. Are we sure Kyler Murray's coming back?
Questionable, but he's trending in the right direction. Now, obviously, that sort of depends there, but man, this is more on watching Seattle just absolutely suck last week versus Green Bay. You just said it. Carson's not coming back. IR, done. Alex Collins is okay at best on his best day.
By the way, I called this when Chris Carson was put on the IR while trying to practice and get into a game on Friday and Saturday. I said, your neck doesn't get better playing football. That guy's done.
I was thinking, like, I watched this guy and watch his videos on YouTube. He's called Pro Football Doc, and he talks about how
David Chow?
Dave Chow.
Yep.
Yeah, and he said it's more likely that he was talking about Christian McCaffrey comes back before Chris Carson does, because they went out at about the same time. He said it's more likely, and he stays back, and there's a likelihood that Carson goes on IR for the whole year. All of those came true.
Yep.
Which, yeah, it's crazy. But, no, I like it because and here's another thing, too. Green Bay's defense is actually pretty close in terms of points per game, in terms of athleticism, in terms of what they like to do. Very similar to Green Bay's. And
Arizona's defense, you mean?
Yeah, sorry, did I say?
You said Green Bay to Green Bay.
Yeah, so point being, when Green Bay played Arizona, it was like a 24-24 game, and it was kind of slow pace, kind of methodical, got Kyler Murray all kind of in some sorts. And, I think another thing is, watching Russell Wilson not be in rhythm last week, and he had a tough time pushing the ball down the field with his broken finger. That's probably better a little bit this week, but no run game. I think it limits Tyler Lockett and it limits DK Metcalf. Yes, I do. I think that this could easily go the other way, hence why the line is 1.5. Yes, but I think that especially if Kyler Murray's back, you got enough weapons. Hopkins is not playing again this week, I'm pretty sure. I think he's out. But you got Zach Ertz, you got Rondale Moore, you've got Christian Kirk, who's having a really good season. I'm going to go ahead, especially if Kyler Murray's back, this is a slam dunk. But even then, I still think that their defense is good enough this year, which is crazy that we're talking about Arizona's defense. But yes, I think it's Arizona.
Yeah, I think one of the biggest surprises this year has been Arizona's defense. I knew their offense would be fun and exciting and stuff. I didn't think it'd be this good, but I knew it would be good. But Arizona, I didn't think they had the personnel to do what they're doing. But even without J.J. Watt, they've looked solid. They had a bad game last week against Carolina, but I think that's more so on their offense wasn't doing any. Like, they got down by 7, and then their offense didn't look good, and then they got down by 14. And it's just one of those that stacked up quickly. You gave up 2 touchdowns, and then you try to do too much, get out of sorts and things like that. Plus, they weren't ready for Cam Newton.
So, yeah, and I forgot to mention this, because I hate him, but James Conner has been pretty freaking good for Arizona. Mostly because I hate him because I had Chase Edmonds in fantasy, so pretty upset about that. But yes, no, I feel pretty confident about this one. Most of my spreads this week I feel pretty confident about. The under I felt really confident about yesterday. There's one other one that we're going to talk about. I'm pretty excited.
All right, so let's go on. We're going to cover that one last. James Conner has 12 touchdowns this year. So next up, we have Indy versus Buffalo. This is another one of my articles coming out this week. So I'm taking Indy +7. It's Indy versus Buffalo, and I'm taking Indy +7. So the thought here is that these have been 2 of the most, I think, underwhelming teams in terms of who they've played. The Colts, I don't think, have beat anyone that's worth noting. They did have that they had close losses to the Titans and Ravens, but they blew both those games. They were up double digits and then just threw it away. And then the only impressive game for the Bills is the Chiefs win. But even then, you're playing against the Chiefs, and that was kind of in the middle of their funk when Mahomes was turning the ball over a lot, and they just weren't in sync right. So I put a small like asterisk next to that win kind of in my mind. But the bigger thing is, because of that, the Bills have gotten overrated because they just been smacking the Jets, the Dolphins, and they lost to the Jags, but they don't have their stats look great, and they're getting inflated because of it. And I think they just run up the score, and I think that's their problem, and that's why they're overvalued. It's a 7-point spread, and it's going to be cold, going to be snowy, or stormy, and windy, so that plays into Indy's favor. Now, I think Buffalo's going to win this. It's a 7-point spread. That's so much. But the last time Buffalo played a team that ran the ball well, it was against the Titans, and Derrick Henry had 143 yards and 3 touchdowns. Jonathan Taylor has been he's been like Nick Chubb, man, in the Browns rushing attack. They've looked absolutely phenomenal, just short of what the Titans look like. So I think the Colts play a conservative style because they like to protect Wentz. So it's going to be low scoring due to weather and just philosophical kind of strategies. So I think lower scoring game. Buffalo wins. 7's just too much.
Yeah, I actually was I couldn't convince myself to pick Indy plus 7, but I was going Indy plus 7. This is kind of an off the cuff one. I probably would bet the under here for all of those reasons that you said, because I think they're going to play keep away. I think they're going to try and run it around and try and, do exactly what they want to do, which is what Minnesota wants to do, which is what Pittsburgh wants to do, which is what San Francisco wants to do. You can go down the list of people that want to establish the run and run the ball and then drag out the clock, mostly because if you look at all of those teams I just mentioned, all of them have crap QBs. All of them have game manager QBs. New England's another one. I'm not on the Mac Jones train yet. We've talked about this. I'm very vocal about that. But
his only pass over 15 yards last night went into the hands of a Falcon, yeah.
So, and we haven't even talked about that game or all that much of that game, but I got a whole litany of things that I want to talk about that. But I'll probably end up betting the under on this one.
It's 49.5, so that's a 28-21 ball game that's being picked. That sounds really high scoring to me. Like, given the weather conditions, it's putting a lot of faith in Josh Allen, who I think has been good against bad defense. So, the under sounds nice. I already put my money on the Colts, though. So
yeah, I'll probably end up going with the under. But yeah, if I was going to pick a spread, it would be Indy plus 7. I think their defense is underrated too.
Whose?
Colts defense is underrated. I think they're better than they've shown, which is, if Darius Leonard is healthy. I think he went out hurt or something like that last week.
He has 4 forced fumbles this year. He has gone full. Yep. He knows how to tackle. He knows how to hit the ball. By the way, Colts are second in turnovers. Can you guess who's first in turnovers?
The Cowboys.
No, the Bills. Carson Wentz is screwed. He's going to get tackled and just throw left-handed picks. All right, so we'll move on to my last game. This is going to be a quickie. Washington football team versus Carolina. So, Carolina's defense, phenomenal, right? They have Stephon Gilmore to cover Terry McLaurin, and they are just good up front. They have a really good defense. They are starting Cam Newton this week, maybe. If not, it's PJ Walker. Regardless,
he got the start. He's getting the start.
He is?
Cam is starting.
Oh, that's wonderful, because that just makes me lean to the under even more. What?
No.
Not the under. So listen.
No.
Listen, when you have Cam Newton as your quarterback, you get a beautiful 70-yard touchdown every game. Robbie Anderson's going to be high-stepping in the end zone. But after that, you get the worst passes anyone will ever see in your life. They're going to be 10 feet high, to the left, all over the place. They're going to run the ball against Washington, Washington has a good run-stopping defense. So,
How's Chase Young, though?
Huh?
How's Chase Young do? Is he playing this game? He's got a really good ACL, right?
Yeah, great ACL. I don't care about that. So I like Chase Young as a pass rusher, and I think he's good. But I think the key to Washington's defensive front is Jonathan Allen. That interior defensive presence he brings, I think, is more important than what Chase Young does as of right now. In a year or two, when Chase Young goes full Myles Garrett, and we're talking about him as Defensive Player of the Year, that's when I think it will transition to he's the most important piece of their defense. But for right now, I think they stopped the run well, even without Chase Young. I think Washington sucks on offense. Go ahead.
Washington sucks on offense, but they put up, what, like 30 last week on the Tampa Bay?
Don't even. I don't get
okay.
that.
Listen,
dude,
I don't get it either. Taylor Heineke. I'm back on the Taylor train, okay? I'm back on it. I was off for a while.
Taylor Heineke's full Ryan Fitzpatrick. He's 100 or 0.
If you're wondering and you're listening to this, why I'm being so vocal is because I'm taking the over, and I'm taking exactly the reasons that he says are crap. I'm all in. Okay, I think Cam has something to prove. Cam has not had Christian McCaffrey healthy. The people that benefit the most out of all of this is going to be Cam at the goal line and Christian McCaffrey opening up the read option in the middle of the field. And you know what you do, Phil? If you have a nose tackle who's a beast, you run outside zone. You run outside the tackles. Oh, and wait. You got to have somebody that sets the edge. Oh, Chase Young. Oh, wait, you don't. You don't have someone that sets the edge. So, yes, I'm going to be all in. And, yes, I get it. He's not a very good passer, but he's going to get one. And DJ Moore has struggled since, like, week 3. If you look at DJ Moore, like, on a fantasy basis, and I'm talking plummeting, like, one of the worst. Like, that's Mike Williams bad. Like, him and Mike Williams, like, are on the same team.
They disappeared.
Bad. Completely disappeared. I think that Cam has more to prove, and I don't think that they're going to be, doing all of these. I don't think that they're going to be doing anything that's outrageous. But if you look at Christian McCaffrey's usage the last 2 weeks, the guy played 49% 2 weeks ago and had 18 touches. Last week, he played like 60% and had like 23 touches. And he had over 100 yards, 150 yards in both of those games. 100 yards in the first one and 150 yards. I think he's healthy. I think he truly is healthy. They got him close. They were about to play him, and then he tweaked it, and then they gave him – it might have been the best thing because now he got 6 weeks to heal a 3-week injury. I think Carolina's going to win. And you know what? I watched some of that Tampa Bay game. Heineke looked good. You talk about guys diagnosing pressure? I'm serious. He reads a defense better than the top 3 quarterbacks that were drafted this year. Dead serious. And it's not even close, I don't think.
All right.
So yes.
Just listen to this. First of all, Taylor Heineke was in school getting a master's degree in mathematics. So, of course, he's a genius.
He's smart. He's smart.
Yeah. So don't give me – I know he's smart. But the thing is, he's Ryan Fitzpatrick. Here's the scores from the Washington's 3 games before their great game against Tampa Bay. They had 13 against the Chiefs. They had 10 against the Packers. They had 10 against the Broncos. Get out of here.
Don't care.
All right.
Don't care.
Man, I'm excited to have a second game against you. What, last time this happened, so you got me you got me in Raiders Eagles. I got you in Browns Bengals, and now we got 2. I'm so excited. Last week we were agreeing with each other and we both got hurt. Good news is at least one of us will be right this week. We'll have at least one win guaranteed.
You know what Ryan Fitzpatrick is, though? Ryan Fitzpatrick is really good or really bad for the over.
Yes.
I mean, it's kind of crazy. He kind of doesn't go around it. He's either way under or he has crushed the over. So you're betting the way under. I'm taking the opposite, which is the way over. So Heineke is Fitzpatrick 2.0, and guess what? We're going over it. We're going over.
43 isn't a lot. It was hard for me to pick that number, but no. I couldn't do it because Cam Newton can't hit the broadside of a barn. All right, anyways, that's enough of that. And let's go on to the game you teased a little. Miami versus the Jets. Looks like you have Miami minus 3.5. Are you just loving them after their beatdown of the Ravens?
I was more impressed with Tua, which I have not been on the Tua train at all. However, Tua game managed that pretty well against a pretty good defense in the Ravens. And I'm actually betting more on Brian Flores. I have been hot cold with Brian Flores all year. I think he's the best out of the disciples minus Vrabel, Belichick's disciples. But he showed up, and his defensive coordinator. I don't know who their defensive coordinator is. They ran some stat which was like 60% was of their entire defense on that night was like cover zero, all out, go up, get Lamar Jackson. It was an unbelievable number. Joe Flacco, yeah, he's good. Yeah, no. They are starting him so that he can read a defense and also decide, hot right. Joe Flacco hasn't been able to do that since like the 2012 Super Bowl that they won after.
He didn't even do that good. All he just threw. I don't know if you remember the Broncos game. To make all of his money, all he did is throw the best touchdown ever. The ball was coming down, and then it like swerved back up because the Broncos were right underneath it to pick it off, and somehow it just like hung in the air an extra second. I think it was Jacoby Jones caught like a 75-yard touchdown, and I think the Broncos were up like 10 with like 2.5 minutes left or something, and that blew the game just right out from underneath them.
So I am betting against the Jets, not for Miami, in this one. And I think Tua is going to get a lead, and I think that they're just going to hold it. I just think that they're going to hold it. I'm not buying the Jets with Mike White. I'm not buying the Jets. I think they've got some young players, but their line is still atrocious. Defense is still terrible. So I am buying the not Jets here, and less than the go Miami Dolphins.
I agree with what you're saying. I just couldn't do it because what's going to happen is Joe Flacco's going to suck. And then in the second quarter, the man with a spot in the Hall of Fame, Mike White, is going to come in. Did you know that they actually have a section of the Hall of Fame with like his 400-yard passing game because it's like the best ever in someone's first start? Mike White has space in the Hall of Fame right now. The Hall of Fame quarterback, and they're benching him for Joe Flacco. Tragedy.
Oh yeah. They're about to put Taylor Heineke up there too. So I mean, for being awesome and
Taylor
being
Heineke.
Ryan Fitzpatrick 2.0.
All right, so that covers all the games we have official picks on. We're just gonna run through these real quick. I have
lightning round.
I would say I have KC minus 2.5. I have New Orleans plus 2.5. Connor's taking Philly minus 2.5. Connor has Green Bay minus 1. I have the Ravens minus 6. Connor has Cardinals minus 1.5, and the Dolphins minus 3.5. And lastly, I have the Colts plus 7 and the under in the football team versus Carolina, and Connor has the over in there. All right, so now to games we didn't cover that I actually have some. I don't have an opinion on. I'm just interested in. I think they're going to be good games to watch. First off, we have Cincy versus the Raiders, and these are two teams I think that are kind of in a bad limbo. 2-3 weeks ago, they're 5-2, sitting atop the AFC. Flash forward, they're 5-4. Lots of questions to be had, and they're fighting for wild card positioning. Getting a win here is huge. I think the Bengals have more matchups against borderline playoff teams, so them losing is actually less hurtful. But it's a big game. I think I like Cincy a lot in this one. It's only a 1-point spread, and it's
like Cincy more than Vegas, but
I'm not betting it.
Yeah, because
we're
Las Vegas' defense, who was good at the beginning of the year, was like 19th last week. We bet against Las Vegas last week, and I bet against Las Vegas last week in total points, but they really showed poorly.
Vegas, Cincinnati.
I would lean towards Cincinnati here. I think they have better matchups with their wide receivers against a crappy Las Vegas back end.
Yeah, I think if Casey Hayward even takes out, let's say Jamar Chase, you still have T. Higgins and Tyler Boyd. It is confusing to me how Joe Burrow has such a phenomenal connection with Jamar Chase, but T. Higgins, I think, is good, and he just hasn't had the same connection, at least on the deep ball. I'd like to see that more if that was possible. Anyways, let's go on to the Sunday Night Football game. We have Pittsburgh versus the Chargers. This is an interesting matchup because it's kind of like one of those opposites attract kind of thing. You have Pittsburgh's defense based on its defensive front against the Chargers, who are, they like the Herbert offense, where let him make something happen to some of their good receivers. And then defensively and offensively for the Chargers versus the Chargers defense versus the Pittsburgh offense, it's kind of like, there's not much going on there. Chase Claypool's back for this game, but I'm still not playing him in fantasy because I don't trust him. So
I don't trust him either.
I think if I had to take an angle on this game, it's probably Pittsburgh plus 5.5 because the Chargers have been so underwhelming, and I don't think they've beaten anyone really that impressively. They typically have closer games.
Yeah, and I'm still upset about them blowing it to Minnesota last week. So, ironically, I would probably still bet the Chargers because I like to bet offenses, only because T.J. Watt is out, Joe Hayden is out,
Watt's out?
I think Watt's out. He's been officially ruled out. So
that's a big deal.
So that's about the only reason why I would still think the Chargers here.
Now that you said Watt's out, I might swing the other way just because I think Watt is the most valuable player on Pittsburgh's team. Yes, that counts. Big Ben. Anyone else?
Yeah, nobody's counting Big Ben anymore. He's crap. So, but the only reason why I would bet the Chargers. Claypool's back, which is great, but it doesn't matter because Ben Roethlisberger can't throw it far enough to get to him. Mason Rudolph is most likely playing anyways here, and you saw what he did last week with Detroit, which is literally nothing. So
I forgot. I wish we had Evan here. He's a Steelers fan, and man, I'm sure that he would just sit and hold himself, and he probably sat and held himself in like a cold shower, rocking back and forth. After that, that was the ugliest,
embarrassing.
That was the worst tie I've ever seen in the NFL for both teams.
It might be. It truly might have been.
Jared Goff had like 10 yards. All right, so now we have 4 games that I have labeled as, unfortunately, I'm sorry to all your fan bases, but no one cares. Like, all right, speed round, Detroit versus Cleveland. Baker Mayfield has a phenomenal game. I would bet Cleveland to cover in this one, but I'm not going to bet it because if he doesn't play well, then it's an 11-point spread.
Yep, 11 points is too much. It's just too much because I don't know what you're going to get with Cleveland. Yep. I bet them last week. Screwed me over. Never again.
Yep. All right, now we have Houston versus Tennessee. I wanted to take Tennessee, but again, 10-point spread. Tyrod Taylor now, no longer Davis Mills. So I'm happy to say that they might score points. But
they might.
Only thing I have to say as a take on this game, Adrian Peterson is going to be the back running the ball, running the clock out, not Deonta Foreman. Adrian Peterson took the final snaps against Saints before they had to punt the ball. So, if you're playing fantasy, Adrian Peterson's sneaky play here.
Yeah, I would probably, if I was going to bet, I'd probably take Houston plus 10. I've told you basically throughout this whole season that Vrabel decides to take his games up and down and his coaching up and down to whoever he's going against. Houston, he knows he's going to crush. Last week, he should have crushed New Orleans. But he knew he would have to coach against Sean Payton. Payton kept it close. He did just enough to win against the Bills, a couple weeks ago. Coached up, won, beat them in a shootout. I think he's going to coach down here. If I was going to bet, I'd take Houston plus 10.
I'm actually thinking I'd take the under now. I'm looking at it. 44.5. That's a 27-17 ball game. So I don't trust Tennessee to score 27 points, and I don't trust Houston to score 20. So
yeah,
not taking it there. Second last one, we have San Fran versus Jacksonville.
Ooh.
Now,
said no one.
Jacksonville gets plus 6.5. I have San Fran's defense in fantasy football, but Jacksonville's coming off 2 great games. Think about it. Beating the Bills by 3. Losing to the Colts by just a touchdown. Trevor Lawrence has got to start looking better. I know it's a bad situation, but start looking better. That's all I have. I'm interested in how he looks, and also, I know Jimmy Garoppolo has actually probably had some of his best games these last 2 or 3. I want some Trey Lance, man. I want some excitement from that Shanahan offense.
You're not going to get it. He's already said, "Oh, Jimmy's my guy. Jimmy's my guy." And he, of course, comes up and beats the Rams. Okay, Jimmy's still your guy. I haven't watched enough of Trevor Lawrence. Terrible situation. You need an offensive-minded, a quarterback's coach, a quarterback guru. You need a Sean Payton for a Trevor Lawrence. You need somebody who's going to develop. The Chargers offensive coordinator would be better, like to develop Trevor Lawrence. He's not going to develop under Urban Meyer. If you look back at Urban Meyer, all of his guys in the NFL, the majority of his quarterbacks have been crap in the NFL. That's just reality. That means he doesn't know how to develop quarterbacks.
We always talked about this, we talked about this at the beginning of the year. Urban Meyer knew how to play the "I have better athletes than you, so I win the game" in college football. And what he did, he had Braxton Miller, Terrell Pryor,
J.T. Barrett.
Yep, and he was like, "Okay, Braxton Miller, we're not going to develop you as a passer. Just go run faster than everyone else. Game over. We win."
Yep.
So. And last game of the week, we have New York Giants versus Tampa Bay. -11 and 49.5. I have no opinion on this game because Tampa Bay, if without AB and Gronk, I don't think people realize that last year they weren't good. They weren't Super Bowl contenders until they got AB, and after their bye week. So
Gronk's back, but AB is not. He's a couple weeks away.
I think if he gets cleared with all this vaccination crap that he's going through. So
yeah,
I don't know. I just don't like it. I'm not trusting them right now. I need to see a lot more to see, because I first 5 weeks they're Super Bowl check mark to me. They'll be there. Not anymore.
Yeah, they lost 2 in a row. I don't like. Bowles is being super aggressive and he's doubling down. He's getting exposed by a guy like Taylor Heineke, who just says, "Let's let it rip. I'm just going to throw it up, and your DBs aren't going to be able to cover my guys somehow, some way." And I if I was a betting man, I would just by rule of thumb,
Tom Brady.
All right, Tom Brady's due. That's exactly where I was going. Tom Brady's due. Okay,
it's a primetime game. Past Tom Brady's bedtime. Bet against him.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
All right. We talked about it earlier. We're gonna let Connor go off real quick before we end our show on the Atlanta Falcons and why he feels they are similar to what we used to feel about the Jacksonville Jaguars.
Yeah, so Jacksonville at the beginning of the year, you didn't know what you were going to get. You were like, "Oh, okay, they've kind of got good running back." You were like, "Oh, Mike Davis is probably going to be pretty good for Atlanta." Right? He showed up. He got paid like $10 million, 1-year tryout. Those things. Jacksonville's got a good running back in James Robinson. Oh, okay, if they can establish the run, okay. Well, neither of them did, and then all of a sudden you've got kind of this Cordero Patterson thrown in. Cordell's got a jackknife, and he's a jack of all trades, and they've developed him, and it's like, wow, okay, got something here. Well, you saw what happened last night with Cordero Patterson being out. I mean, you don't have Mike Davis. Mike Davis is a dud. That was a stupid decision. They pulled up a practice squad guy to try and get something. Allison, nothing. You've got a true unicorn in Kyle Pitts, which truthfully he is that, but you can't do it when you're going against Belichick. And the ways that I saw them try and go about getting the ball to Kyle Pitts, which weren't very good, mind you, they either used him as a decoy, plain and simple, and just sent him, or they tried to force it to him. They did not do any 2-man routes. They did not try and move him around and get him the ball in creative ways. They tried one time to put him in the backfield and go out of the backfield and kind of loop-de-loo him around. You have an immobile quarterback. You've got a crappy offensive line. You've got a defense that's okay at best. You've got literally nothing. You've got guys like Olamide Zaccheaus and Russell Gage as your next options. Matt Ryan looks awful, and he was hurt. And I think they gave up something like 6 sacks. Yeah, it doesn't matter what you do. You can't move the ball. And if you give Belichick time, and you give him, or you don't even have to give him time because it was a short week. If you give Belichick literally all of those options that says, "Hey, all right, I don't have to stop the run. don't have to stop your mobile quarterback. I can blitz you all night and get to the quarterback, or I can get to you with 3 or 4 man pressures, and you've got one option on offense, literally one. Blueprint's out there now. Beat Kyle Pitts up at the line with literally anybody.
Everybody.
Then you're going to
correction. With everybody. Use 11 guys on him. You're good.
Yeah. And I think they didn't even get 100 yards in total offense until like the end of the third quarter. Truthfully, I feel bad for Kyle Pitts. He gets no help, and you're just not doing anything to get your playmakers the ball. And Patterson sitting out, he makes you look great because he's 6'3", 230, and he can literally do everything. That's great. In the NFL, you need more than 2 horses. Your quarterback's aging. Your offensive line sucks. You got no running game. You're in for a long time until even if you get Cordero Patterson back. Truthfully, I would be tough to even bet them in anything probably going forward. Just anything. They're 4-5, and that's a mirage. That's not real. 4-6 now.
They had some miracle games in there somehow. The football team game. I remember we bet that against each other, and I beat you in that one because of the football team getting like a 30-yard touchdown. That was BS, man.
Yeah. So I think you're actually 2-1 against me in head-to-heads. So
I think it's 2-2. There's another one that we're forgetting that I was wrong on. I'm sure.
Yeah, it's probably a Cleveland game, but there you go. If you wanted a breakdown of how I think that they should use Kyle Pitts, we can do that next week. But he is a game changer. But you have to have more horses in your stable than one. Literally one. You have to have more. You gotta have an off-speed pitch, and they have no off-speed pitch. They don't even have a regular fastball because they can't get it to him because they can't get him open. So I was texting you about Arthur Smith, like, who is this dude? And we literally said this last night. His offense has to work with a stallion in the back. You have to have a Derrick Henry. Mike Davis is not even close. Cordell Patterson isn't even close. He's more of a hybrid. You gotta have a play-action game. And that was going to be your way to open up an A.J. Brown or a Kyle Pitts or
Calvin Ridley,
somebody else. Oh, yeah, Ridley. I forgot
He's
about
out
him.
too,
Yeah.
So
those are the only ways that'll work.
All right, my bold prediction. Next year, Matt Ryan goes in and does what Phillip Rivers did last year and takes a team to the playoffs, but he's not going to be in Atlanta. I think...
Oh, he's definitely not going to be in Atlanta.
I was going to say, I think if he was in Minnesota the last 2 years, I think they are a borderline an NFC contender. So they're a top 5 NFC team. Instead of Kirk Cousins. I think he's that much better than Kirk Cousins. I don't know. I was just looking at the list of teams. I'm not sure where he could go, where he could provide that much value. But everything gets shuffled. Washington is one I got my eyes on. Denver, that could be 2 good options for him. Because there's no rookie quarterbacks next year, and I think he will be a hot commodity. I don't think he's used up. I think he's in a terrible situation. I think he's not good, but I think he's better than what the replacement level quarterbacks are out there. All right, so that wraps up our show. I'm just gonna run through our picks one more time. I'm gonna take Baltimore -6, New Orleans +2.5, Indy +7, KC -2.5. And the under in the football team's game, or in the Carolina football team game. Then Connor has Philadelphia -2.5, Miami -3.5, Green Bay -1, Arizona -1.5. A lot of favorites, and the over. But important to remember, we also hit Thursday Night Football, so we are both 1-0 for the week, undefeated. Should have just not put any other picks in and lied to you guys about it. All right, so thanks again for listening. Hit the like and subscribe buttons, comments. We're happy to hear from everyone on anything. Follow us, and have a good weekend. Good luck with your bets. Doop.